Hey folks, Will here again with Happily Ever Outdoors. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at UCO's Stormproof Sweetfire Strikeable Firestarter. So keep watching. Alright, so if you folks follow our channel, you've probably seen recently I did a video on UCO's original Sweetfire Strikeable Firestarter. If not, I'll have the link in the description below. But if you saw that video, you know I am not a fan of this stuff really at all, at least currently. Now, odds are the box I got was defective, but you can see from the video I used 4 or 5 pieces and wasn't even able to get it to stay lit. It would just light for like a second or two and then go out. Even in completely windless conditions that's inside my house, I was only able to get, I think, like 2 pieces to stay lit. Now, I know this stuff's been around for a little while, and there's some folks I know and trust who say they use it and it works just fine for them, but it seems to me there's some kind of a dependability, some kind of a quality control issue, something going on with this. Now, with the Stormproof version, however, in my experience so far, night and day, completely different. Now, you can see just from looking out the outside of the box a couple of key differences. Number one, you'll see with the original Sweetfire how they're kind of stuck together like that, whereas the Stormproof Sweetfire, they are completely separate in the box, so you don't have to separate them. But performance wise, the big thing you can see is the actual striking surface. You can see is very, very small on the original, whereas if you've got this large area down here that's got that accelerant, that kind of, you know, UCO's signature Stormproof match stuff is on there. So it's gonna burn really hot, really fast, give you a big flame to get started. Now, a lot of you are probably familiar with UCO's original Stormproof matches. These things have been around for a while, very, very popular, and they've got a great reputation. So you've got your striking tip right there, as well as this orange part here, which is kind of like the accelerant that really keeps it burning. And these things will burn underwater. Stick them in the dirt and pull them out and they'll still be burning. They're pretty much unstoppable. And with the Sweetfire, it's basically the same concept as the Stormproof match, but you're also adding the addition of this, I guess it's sugarcane byproduct based tinder, a little tinder triangle. So definitely a really interesting concept. I mean, basically the idea is that without any kind of a lighter, ferro rod, anything, you just take your piece of strikeable tinder, you go ahead and ignite it, and you use that to get your fire started, and that's, you know, all you need for your base. Now, one of the big questions, of course, is performance-wise, does it actually work as advertised? Now, checking this stuff out, you can see it basically comes in a oversized matchbox. You got a striking surface on both sides. This particular box contains 20 pieces, so when we open it up, you'll see that it comes in little individually wrapped packs of 5. Now, these are not completely sealed, but it does say on there, in order to prolong the life of these fire starters, that you want to keep them inside this pack. So you just go ahead and fold that flap over, and that's just to keep the humidity from getting to them, basically. It also comes with a couple of little striking surfaces, and they seem pretty sturdy. It looks like there's 2 of them in there. I haven't opened up yet, but they do come in a little sleeve. Is that sealed? Yeah, it looks like it's completely sealed. So these are actually waterproofed until you open them up. So that's cool. So if you want to take part of these and like split them up between a couple different survival kits or something like that, you've got, you know, one of these little extra striking surfaces you could throw in there. So taking a closer look at these guys, you can see, again, you've got your, you know, renewable resource tinder right there that is built in. You've got your striking tip, just like you would see on a regular match, as well as your, you know, big accelerant surface right there, which is really going to give you that long, big, extended flame. So, using the box that's provided, you can see, just like any other match, just briskly strike and it's going to ignite. And this stuff does definitely ignite very easily, and you can see that's a large flame. It's definitely nothing tiny. It's fairly significant, and especially if you've got some other tinder and stuff ready to go, you're definitely not going to have any issue getting that initial burn. Now, one thing I will say, it does have its limitations in terms of it being windproof, waterproof, and stormproof. It is really windproof and waterproof and stormproof up until the point where that initial burn goes away. Once you get to where it's just the tinder itself burning, that's really not the case. This stuff is not waterproof. I mean, if this got soaking wet, it would soak up the water. And I have actually had a big gust of wind come through when it's gotten to this point before, and it has blown it out. So keep that in mind, that this isn't like, you know, completely unstoppable, impervious to the elements, but at least, again, for that initial burn, you've got those same stormproof, waterproof, windproof qualities that you get with their stormproof matches. Now, according to the box, these get up to a 7-minute burn time. I haven't personally sat and tested it. That seems right. I have seen it tested, so I think that's accurate. But if you're actually building a fire, it might be a little harder to gauge that, because you're going to be piling stuff up on top of it, right? So you're not really going to see exactly how long it's going to last, and it's probably going to consume it faster once you really get that fire going. But, you know, for technical specifications, you know, and purposes, I definitely think the 7-minute burn time is believable. But you guys can see, at least in, you know, fairly ideal conditions, it's cool out. There's just a very light breeze, but we're fairly well sheltered here. You know, it's not wet, it's not raining, and it's burning steady. It's been going for a few minutes now, with absolutely nothing added to it whatsoever. So certainly, if I were actually trying to build a fire right now, I'd have no problems getting that thing going. So they definitely work as far as, you know, igniting and getting a fire going. But I think the next question is, what are you really going to use these things for primarily, right? Is this like a survival tool? Is this more of something for like just convenience, you know, making it easy to get fire started around the campsite, things like that? Or is it somewhere in between? Now, one of the things that I like to use a lot are small wood burning camp stoves. And I think personally that that's going to be one of the ways that this stuff is most useful. So let's go ahead and check that out. All right, so you guys can see that actually works extremely well. You can take that initial flame, that really hot burn, and you can actually use that, like I did, to kind of ignite the rest of your tinder and everything. And then I just, once I got it going, just dropped it down in there. And this stove is picking up and burning way faster than it normally does. I mean, you can see, just like anything else, you know, it's not like a silver bullet. It's not a replacement for having any other kind of dry tinder. But if you've got the basics of what you need, and even this wood, you know, not all of it is bone dry. I had some good dry tinder, a little bit of bark and stuff to work with. But aside from that, this is just stuff I found on the ground, you know, and off of some, you know, deadfall. And I was able to get it going. And this is going steady right now, just fine. So guys, in terms of performance when being used with a wood-burning camp stove like this, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this is one of the best fire starters I've used for this particular, you know, application. Of course, with a wood-burning stove like this, it already lends itself towards really kind of concentrating that heat and that flame, and it does a good job of shielding anything from wind and things like that, disrupting it. So when you take a fire starter like this that's got that really good accelerant to it, I mean, it's just like taking a flamethrower to it. I've been messing around with this stuff a little bit now, and consistently I've been able to always achieve a really good fire really fast in one of these stoves, and I get a good bed of coals, you know, something that's steady that I can build on while I'm cooking way faster. I mean, way faster than I have without it. So that's really great to see, especially since these are, you know, a little more expensive, obviously, per unit than like using matches or something like that. But you pretty much know with each one you use, you're guaranteed to get a good fire, no fuss, no messing around, no issues. You know, you just know it's gonna start up nice and easy. Alright, so as I'm sure you guys can see from what we've done so far, these things are definitely dependable. They light up every time. A controlled application like using them inside a wood-burning stove, they're just unstoppable. But of course, that still leaves the question, what about for use in an open fire with larger pieces of wood? So while this definitely worked really well for a smaller controlled fire in a little twig stove, is it going to give enough heat, enough sustained burn to really get a substantial fire going? And for that, we're going to actually have to take it back to the house, because I don't really have somewhere that I can safely, or at least legally, burn an open campfire today. So let's head to the truck. Alright guys, so we've got a little bit of a backyard campfire set up here. Nothing fancy, no like survival techniques, just what you might do at home. And we're going to go ahead and try this out. Alright guys, so we're getting there now. It was probably a little slower starting than it could be, and that was really on me. I didn't have enough, you know, twigs and smaller dry stuff underneath there. I was kind of trying to see how it would stand on its own, you know. But what's actually really cool is, even with that, because of the fact that Sweetfire tinder burns so long, it's a little bit forgiving, you know. It keeps you that little bit of a flame going. So if you need to play with it and doctor it up a little bit, you've got some leeway to do that. All right, guys, so you can see it is definitely going strong now. No danger of it going out. I had to use very little tinder, just a little bit of dried bark, but no other kind of accelerants, no fat wood, nothing like that. Just some twigs, and with one piece of that Sweetfire, we were able to get a real campfire going, and this will be going strong, you know, for a good long while. If we wanted to get out here and roast some marshmallows with the kids or whatever, we would be all set. So in conclusion, guys, UCO has really restored my faith in the Sweetfire line of products with the Stormproof Strikeable Firestarter. Definitely not a big fan of the original, but this stuff, it works. So, I mean, I could see this going in a survival kit, you know, maybe not necessarily the whole box, but you could take out a few pieces of it, put it with one of the strikers, put it in something so it's completely waterproof. And it could be handy for that, but to me, really, the primary thing I see this as being good for is really when you want to save time and you don't want to have to work really hard to get a fire going. So whether it's for using these in a twig stove, like I'm primarily going to use them for, or for getting a fire started, even in your fire pit in your backyard or your fireplace in your house, or maybe you've got like a bushcraft camp, you know, where you've got a set stationary fire pit. This stuff works really well for that. I mean, I'm all for practicing survival skills and primitive techniques and all that good stuff, but sometimes you just want to get a fire going and you don't want to mess around with it. And I think that's where this stuff really shines, and that's why it's become so popular lately. Now, as far as using this as a survival tool, honestly, I think one of the limitations is the tinder itself. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the fact that it's made from sugarcane waste product, so it's a responsible, renewable source of tinder to put this product together. But if you put that aside for just a second, I'm sure UCO could find some other kind of tinder that they could use as a base, this exact same concept that would give you a hotter burn and a longer burn, and something that was going to be more effective in poor weather conditions. So I don't know, maybe they could come up with kind of an upgraded, maybe slightly more expensive, more robust version of this product, and I think it would be a lot more viable as an actual survival fire starter. But in the end, it's still a really awesome product, certainly worth checking out, and it gets the HEO seal of approval. Of course, if you guys have any questions or comments about anything we covered in this video, feel free to drop that below. Until next time, stay happy, stay outdoors.